The emergence of Christianity, faith, society, and transformation. The emergence of Christianity, one of the most transformative religious movements in world history, can be viewed as a deeply impactful social, cultural, and historical development. Arising from the politically charged and unstable landscape of first-century Judea, Christianity started as a modest Jewish reform movement, and over time evolved into a global faith that reshaped ancient and modern civilizations. Though frequently understood through theological frameworks, its rise also reflects a compelling narrative about humanity's struggles with authority, identity, and purpose. In the first century, Judea, under Roman occupation, was a province filled with tension and instability. The Jewish people lived under the burden of Roman taxation and control, often clashing with their sacred traditions and long-standing hopes for self-rule. A central element of Jewish belief was the prophecy of a Messiah, a divinely appointed Savior who would free them from oppression. This messianic hope thrived within a broader context of social unease, as various groups either resisted Roman domination or sought ways to coexist with it. Inside Judaism itself, divisions flourished. The Pharisees emphasized meticulous obedience to Jewish laws. The Sadducees oversaw rituals in the temple. The Zealots advocated armed rebellion, and the Essenes retreated from public life to practice spiritual purity in isolation. These factions revealed the diverse methods by which Jewish communities navigated their troubled era. Into this divided society stepped Jesus of Nazareth, a compelling speaker and healer whose life, teachings, and followers would ignite one of the most significant religious revolutions in history. Although aspects of his life are historically debated, records suggest Jesus was a Jewish man from Galilee, living during a period of widespread unrest. His messages, preserved in the Gospels and other early Christian texts, emphasized love, mercy, and humility. He preached about the kingdom of God, a concept many interpreted as a call for spiritual transformation rather than direct political action. What set Jesus apart was the inclusive nature of his ministry. He welcomed the outcast, prostitutes, tax collectors, and lepers, and challenged societal norms and religious formalism. His radical openness resonated with those alienated by rigid legalism or Roman domination. As his influence grew, both Jewish religious authorities and Roman officials began to view him as a threat to the delicate balance of power. Around 30 CE, Jesus was condemned to death by crucifixion, a Roman execution method typically reserved for rebels and criminals. Far more than a simple death sentence, crucifixion was intended to degrade the condemned and serve as a public warning. From a purely historical lens, Jesus' death might have ended his movement, as had happened with other self-proclaimed messiahs of the time. Yet, what followed was extraordinary. Jesus' followers proclaimed that he had risen from the dead, an event they called the resurrection. Whether viewed spiritually or symbolically, this event redefined Jesus' identity from local prophet to divine figure. His resurrection inspired a determined group of disciples to carry his teachings far beyond Judea. The early believers in Jesus, eventually known as Christians, originated within the Jewish tradition. They interpreted his life and message as the fulfillment of Jewish prophecy, while expanding the concept of salvation into a universal gift, meant for all people, not just Jews. This inclusive vision allowed Christianity to transcend its Judaic roots and find widespread appeal. A transformative force in this transition was Paul of Tarsus, a former Pharisee who experienced a dramatic conversion, which he described as a vision of Jesus. Paul emerged as one of Christianity's most influential missionaries and theologians. Traveling across the Roman Empire, he established Christian communities and authored letters, later incorporated into the New Testament, that clarified Christian doctrine and unified its message. Christianity's message quickly gained traction, especially in urban centers of the Roman Empire. Its teachings offered hope to the poor, the marginalized, and the socially excluded, providing them with belonging and purpose. The early Christian groups were noted for their mutual support, including caring for the sick and needy, setting them apart from the often impersonal class-based structure of Roman society. Initially, the Roman authorities treated Christianity with hostility. Christians refused to take part in traditional Roman religious ceremonies, including the worship of the emperor, which was seen as a threat to public unity. Attempts to suppress Christianity through persecution often backfired. The spectacle of martyrdom, where Christians were executed for refusing to abandon their beliefs, served as a powerful example of faith and drew new converts. The pivotal moment in Christianity's rise came in the early 4th century with Emperor Constantine. Historical narratives claim that Constantine converted to Christianity after experiencing a vision before a decisive battle. In 313 CE, he issued the Edict of Milan, which officially granted Christianity legal status and ended centuries of persecution. Recognizing the religion's growing importance, Constantine used Christianity to help solidify his power and unify the empire. In 380 CE, Emperor Theodosius declared Christianity the state religion of the Roman Empire. What had begun as a minor Jewish sect in a troubled province had, in under 400 years, become the dominant spiritual force of one of the greatest empires in history. The fusion of Christianity with Roman power marked a historic transformation. It reshaped not only the religion, but the empire itself, embedding Christian values within its cultural and administrative systems. Christianity introduced revolutionary ideas about human worth, compassion, and the moral duties of rulers, which would go on to influence Western civilization for generations. The Christian Church eventually became a key institution in medieval Europe, safeguarding knowledge, shaping philosophy and art, and offering continuity in times of political disunity. From a scholarly perspective, Christianity's spread can be attributed to its remarkable flexibility, organizational strength, and ability to connect with people's spiritual and social needs. Its message of redemption and community allowed it to cross linguistic and cultural boundaries. Its adaptability enabled it to endure and grow across different political systems. And its promise of meaning and unity in a difficult world gave it staying power few other movements could rival. In conclusion, the growth of Christianity is not only a religious phenomenon, but also a deeply human story, a tale of ideas, institutions, and societal forces converging to give rise to a movement that would change the course of history. Studying its evolution through historical and sociological lenses offers vital insights into how a once persecuted sect became a pillar of global civilization. The Persian realm, power, tolerance, and legacy. The Persian realm, among the largest and most impactful civilizations of antiquity, extended from the fringes of Europe to the central stretches of Asia. Its emergence redefined the ancient political landscape by fusing military expansion with diplomacy and administration with a remarkable spirit of cultural acceptance. At its peak, this enormous empire brought together an intricate mosaic of ethnicities and traditions under an advanced governmental structure, leaving behind an enduring impact that still resonates throughout history. This epic tale begins with Cyrus the Great, the visionary architect of the Persian Empire. In the middle of the 6th century BC, Cyrus, a scion of the Achaemenid dynasty, overthrew the Medes and laid the foundation of an empire that quickly swallowed vast regions, including Babylon and Mesopotamia. Yet, Cyrus was far more than a military conqueror. He was a unifier. Unlike tyrants who ruled through fear, Cyrus adopted a groundbreaking approach rooted in tolerance and inclusivity. When he seized Babylon in 539 BCE, he spared the population and honored their customs and religions. His magnanimous policies earned him widespread respect as both a liberator and a sovereign. Among his most noteworthy accomplishments was the creation of the Cyrus cylinder, widely regarded as the earliest charter of human rights. This clay inscription details how Cyrus restored sacred sites and permitted displaced groups, like the Jewish people, to return to their ancestral homes. These humane principles earned him praise in the Hebrew Scriptures, where he is celebrated as the ruler who allowed the rebuilding of the Temple in Jerusalem. Cyrus's reign embodied a rare blend of authority and compassion, building a powerful yet trusted state. His successors would both extend the empire's reach and elevate its administration. Darius the Bee, who assumed power almost 4 decades later, was a masterful bureaucrat who turned the empire into a meticulously managed state. To oversee the empire's vast lands, Darius divided the territory into 20 regions, or satrapies, each governed by a satrap. This method offered regional freedom while upholding central authority. Darius also introduced a unified currency system and established an expansive road network, most famously the Royal Road, a 1,500-mile route connecting Sardis in the west to Susa in the east. These advancements strengthened trade, communication, and unity across the empire. Yet Darius's rule faced unrest. In 499 BCE, the Ionian Revolt broke out as Greek city-states located in Asia Minor resisted Persian rule. This defiance sparked the Greco-Persian Wars, which intensified under Darius's son, Xerxes I. Iconic confrontations such as the Battle of Marathon, Thermopylae, and Salamis followed. Despite their superior armies and wealth, the Persians were eventually held back by the tenacity and unity of the Greek polis. This marked a critical juncture, halting Persia's expansion into the west. Beyond military campaigns and administrative brilliance, the Persian Empire was renowned for its cultural plurality. Its rulers embraced various local dialects, religions, and customs, cultivating an atmosphere of mutual respect. The imperial capitals, Persepolis and Susa, stood as awe-inspiring monuments, merging architectural elements from India, Mesopotamia, and Egypt into stunning masterpieces that testified to the empire's multicultural soul. The dominant faith of the empire, Zoroastrianism, introduced powerful ideas: cosmic dualism, moral responsibility, and an eternal battle between light and darkness. These concepts would go on to shape religious doctrines in Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. However, by the 4th century BCE, the golden era of the Persian Empire began to fade. Widespread uprisings, increasing corruption, and a series of ineffectual leaders chipped away at its foundations. The ultimate collapse came at the hands of Alexander the Great, the Macedonian monarch whose strategic brilliance overwhelmed Persian defenses. Key defeats at battles like Issus and Gaugamela dismantled the empire's power. The fall of Persepolis in 330 BCE symbolized the end of Persian supremacy as Alexander incorporated its domains into his expanding empire. Even in defeat, the Persian Empire's influence proved resilient. Its administrative techniques and infrastructure became models for future regimes such as the Hellenistic kingdoms and the Roman Empire. Persia's system of governance, balancing central authority with regional independence and cultural respect, set a lasting example for how to manage diverse populations. Persian achievements in literature, architecture, and art continued to leave their mark across the regions it once governed. The empire was not merely a political powerhouse, it was a hub of civilization, innovation, and intercultural dialogue. It linked the ancient worlds of Asia, the Near East, and Europe, fostering the exchange of knowledge and ideas that would shape future societies. By merging warfare with statesmanship, tradition with evolution, and control with respect, the Persian Empire stands as a shining example of what humanity can achieve through vision and unity. Its story is not only one of conquest, but one of enduring significance, a legacy that still molds the modern world. Democracy in ancient Greece, the legacy of the polis. The Greek city-states, or polis, were far more than simple settlements. They were dynamic arenas of political experimentation, cultural growth, and innovative thought. Imagine a world where magnificent marble temples loomed over energetic marketplaces, where thinkers exchanged ideas beneath olive trees, and where citizens assembled to vote on issues shaping their shared future. Scattered along the glittering coastline of the Aegean Sea, these independent city-states shared a common tongue and cultural heritage, yet each preserved a unique identity. Among them, Athens emerged as the cradle of democracy, a daring and delicate venture that reshaped humanity's concept of authority and civic participation. Unlike expansive empires such as Persia or Egypt, each Greek polis was small in scale and autonomous in structure, complete with its own laws, army, and traditions. Some, like Sparta, embodied military discipline and oligarchic rule, prizing strength and obedience above all else. In contrast, Athens chose an entirely different path, pioneering the radical concept of democracy, the idea that political authority could reside in the hands of ordinary people. But this early democracy was not yet the inclusive, universal system recognized today. It was a developing framework, marred by flaws, yet filled with the potential to redefine society. Initially, Athens was far from egalitarian. Envision a city dominated by aristocratic families, where the impoverished labored under unbearable debts and inequality permeated every layer of life. This societal strain sparked the rise of reformers willing to envision a new order. One such figure, Solon, an early statesman of Athens, took historic steps by ending debt slavery, a brutal custom that reduced debtors to bondage. He redistributed property and extended political participation to more citizens, initiating the transformation of Athenian public life. Though Solon's measures fell short of full democracy, they laid critical groundwork for future change. A definitive shift came under Cleisthenes, often remembered as the father of Athenian democracy. Through a bold political overhaul, he dismantled the influence of noble clans by reshaping the governmental framework. He established new political units called dames, blending people from different regions and social standings, thereby promoting cohesion and undercutting inherited privilege. Envision a society where influence wasn't passed down by birthright but earned through civic involvement, a realm where even citizens of humble origins could help guide the state. Cleisthenes' reforms introduced the revolutionary belief that governance could be entrusted to the people themselves. Still, Athenian democracy had its shortcomings. Women, enslaved individuals, and foreigners were denied political rights. Even among male citizens, wealth and social standing often determined the level of one's influence. Despite this, the principle of direct citizen engagement marked a turning point in governance. Consider the ecclesia, a vast public assembly where citizens convened to deliberate on matters of war, legislation, and policy. Every voice could be heard, and every major decision was decided collectively, standing in stark opposition to the monarchies and centralized empires of the age. In addition, the Boule, a council composed of 500 citizens selected by lottery, ensured that leadership roles could not be monopolized by the privileged. This belief in isonomia, or equality under the law, became a hallmark of Athenian governance. Yet, democracy was never immune to skepticism. Philosophers like Plato warned of the dangers of giving unchecked authority to the masses, fearing it could spiral into mob rule. Aristotle, while more accepting of democracy, still questioned whether such a system could reconcile expert knowledge with the desires of the general public. These critiques remain relevant today as modern democracies navigate similar tensions. Athenian democracy would ultimately face severe tests and its eventual downfall. The Peloponnesian War, a devastating conflict between Athens and Sparta, eroded the strength and unity of the city-state. Visualize a battered Athens under siege, its once imposing walls breached, and its democratic framework buckling under internal discord and external threats. Nonetheless, even as Athenian democracy declined, its influence persisted. The saga of the Greek city-states tells a story of vision, courage, and endurance. These city-states served as incubators for transformative ideas that would echo through history, shaping the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, and the foundation of modern democratic systems. Athens, though flawed, imagined a political world where power did not belong solely to kings, but to the collective voice of the people. That bold dream still resonates, reminding us that democracy, while fragile, remains one of the most profound accomplishments of human civilization. Imperial China, a chronicle of dynastic power. Ancient China's history unfolds as a richly woven chronicle, marked by the succession of dynasties that not only molded Chinese society, but also influenced world civilization. Spanning millennia, this dynastic era witnessed unparalleled progress in governance, philosophy, science, and technology, establishing China as one of the most resilient and impactful cultures in history. The narrative commences with the Xia dynasty, traditionally acknowledged as China's earliest ruling family. Yet much of its account remains wrapped in mythology, as definitive archaeological confirmation remains limited. Historical records like the Shujing, Book of Documents, credit the Xia with establishing essential aspects of Chinese society, including primitive farming and early bronze craftsmanship. While the exact nature of its influence remains contested, the Xia maintains a crucial symbolic place between mythic lore and documented history. Next in the timeline is the Shang dynasty, the first Chinese dynasty confirmed by archaeological evidence. It is especially noted for its expertise in bronze technology, the formation of a structured bureaucracy, and the advent of Chinese writing. Excavations have uncovered ornate bronze artifacts and engraved oracle bones that offer insight into Shang-era culture. These bones, used in divination rituals, highlight the emphasis placed on honoring ancestors and demonstrate the integration of spiritual beliefs with statecraft and everyday living. Following the Shang, the Zhou dynasty rose to prominence and became the longest ruling dynasty in Chinese history. The Zhou introduced the seminal concept of the mandate of heaven, a belief that rulers were appointed by divine will, but could lose this mandate through unjust leadership. This principle became foundational to Chinese political ideology for centuries, linking a ruler's virtue with their authority to lead. During the Zhou era, several pivotal schools of thought emerged, most notably Confucianism, Taoism, and legalism. Confucianism, initiated by Confucius, emphasized ethical governance, respect within the family, and social harmony. Taoism, traditionally attributed to Laozi, encouraged living in alignment with the Tao, or the natural path of the universe, through humility and simplicity. In contrast, legalism promoted the enforcement of strict laws and severe punishments, asserting that rigid state control was essential for societal stability. These ideologies left a lasting mark on Chinese political theory, cultural values, and societal organization. The rise of the Qin dynasty marked a profound transformation in Chinese governance. Under the rule of Qin Shi Huang, China was unified into a centralized imperial structure for the first time. The Qin implemented uniform systems of measurement, currency, and script, which greatly enhanced bureaucratic efficiency and national cohesion. Monumental construction efforts, such as the earliest form of the Great Wall, were launched to defend against northern threats. However, Qin Shi Huang's regime was also notorious for its autocratic policies, such as the burning of texts and persecution of dissenters. Although his centralized reforms united the realm, widespread unrest led to the dynasty's swift downfall soon after his death. Rising from the Qin's collapse, the Han Dynasty inaugurated one of China's most prosperous and influential periods, often considered a golden age. Building on Qin foundations, the Han solidified the imperial structure and embraced Confucianism as the guiding state philosophy. This era witnessed expansive territorial conquests and the establishment of the Silk Road, a trade route linking China to the Western world and facilitating broad cultural and economic interaction. The Han period was also rich in scientific discovery and innovation, with milestones such as the invention of paper, significant advances in medicine, and breakthroughs in astronomy. After the Han dynasty's decline, China entered the Three Kingdoms period, a time characterized by fragmented power and continuous warfare. Despite the political turmoil, this chapter of history became legendary, immortalized in Chinese literature through the epic romance of the Three Kingdoms. Eventually, dynasties like the Sui and Tang emerged, re-establishing national unity and fostering further progress. The Tang dynasty, often hailed as China's second golden age, oversaw a golden era of artistic expression, territorial growth, and flourishing commerce. Poetry, painting, and ceramic arts reached new artistic pinnacles, while the capital Chang'an became a thriving cosmopolitan city, attracting merchants and scholars from across Asia and the Middle East. China's dynastic narrative continued over centuries, with each regime contributing distinct legacies to the evolution of Chinese civilization. From the mythical Xia to the vibrant Tang, every dynasty enriched the culture, statecraft, and intellectual life of one of the world's most enduring societies. The innovations, ideologies, and achievements of this period not only shaped China's future, but also left a lasting imprint on the broader arc of global history. The enigma of the Indus River Civilization. Among the earliest known origins of human society, the Indus River Civilization stands as a compelling yet largely enigmatic period in world history. Spanning roughly from 3300 BCE to 1300 BCE, this advanced civilization thrived along the nutrient-rich floodplains of the Indus River, located in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. Also referred to as the Harappan civilization, it was distinguished by its remarkable achievements in organized urban life, intricate architecture, and vast commercial networks. Nevertheless, many aspects of this society remain elusive, particularly its undeciphered writing system, which continues to baffle historians and linguists alike. A defining characteristic of this civilization was its high level of city infrastructure. In contrast to many ancient societies governed by monarchs or religious hierarchies, the cities within the Indus River Civilization demonstrated extraordinary civic design. Urban hubs like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were arranged in orderly, grid-like street systems where roads intersected at precise right angles. This layout reflects a refined level of civic control and planning, predating similar accomplishments later seen in empires like Rome. The society's commitment to hygiene and public health adds further evidence of its sophistication. Dwellings in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro often featured private wells, washrooms, and efficient wastewater channels that carried used water far from living quarters. Such an emphasis on sanitation was far ahead of its time and firmly establishes the Indus civilization as one of the most advanced ancient urban cultures. Another noteworthy aspect was the consistency of building materials and measuring tools. Archaeological findings show that bricks used in construction were uniformly shaped and that standardized weights and measurements were utilized across different towns and cities. This level of uniformity suggests the existence of centralized oversight that spanned large geographic regions, facilitating both large-scale building projects and streamlined commercial transactions. Commerce was vital to the success of the Indus River people. Artifacts point to widespread local and international trading practices that linked them with distant regions like Mesopotamia, present-day Iran, and Afghanistan. Indus seals engraved with unique symbols have been discovered in Mesopotamian contexts, highlighting a strong commercial connection. These trade activities likely involved textiles, precious stones, and metal goods, contributing to the civilization's economic endurance and influence. Despite lacking large religious monuments or centralized temples, archaeological findings suggest a deep spiritual dimension within the society. Items such as carved figurines, seal images, and various ritual objects imply a belief system possibly centered on fertility and nature deities. The well-known Pashupati seal, which depicts a seated figure surrounded by animals, is viewed by some researchers as an early symbol of Hinduism or an early form of the deity Shiva, possibly connecting Harappan beliefs to later Indian religious traditions. Arguably, the greatest riddle associated with the Indus River Civilization is its script. Thousands of symbols etched onto seals, pottery, and other artifacts have been unearthed, but none have been conclusively interpreted. Unlike Egypt's Rosetta Stone, there is no multilingual key to unlock the meanings behind these inscriptions. As a result, significant elements of Indus political structures, spiritual beliefs, and everyday life remain largely speculative, sparking continued investigation and debate. The cause of the civilization's disappearance is another unsolved puzzle. By around 1300 BCE, major centers like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were deserted, and the population sharply declined. Theories to explain this decline include environmental transformations, such as rivers drying up or flooding, or the arrival and settlement of Indo-Aryan groups. Some experts argue that shifts in river patterns may have crippled agriculture, while others believe internal societal or infrastructural issues may have led to the downfall. Even though the Indus River Civilization eventually faded, its innovations left a lasting imprint. Its practices in structured city building, economic trade, and possibly early religious traditions influenced the cultures that followed in South Asia. The civilization remains a shining example of how early human societies could create complex, organized communities far earlier than previously imagined. In essence, the Indus River Civilization reveals the impressive intellectual and technological abilities of early societies in administration, architecture, and trade. Its expertly designed cities, pioneering sanitation systems, and far-reaching trade routes mark it as a culture significantly ahead of its era. And yet, the lingering questions about its writing, spiritual life, and eventual fall make it one of the most fascinating and mysterious chapters in ancient history. With every new excavation, scholars inch closer to unveiling the secrets of this extraordinary civilization. Pharaohs and the glory of ancient Egypt, renowned for its awe-inspiring pyramids, grand temples, and mighty sovereigns, ranks among the most extraordinary civilizations ever known. At the center of its society stood the pharaoh, a ruler honored not only as the highest political authority, but also revered as a divine being. For over 3 millennia, Egyptian civilization flourished along the banks of the Nile, bequeathing a rich legacy of culture, belief, and monumental architecture. The Nile River was the heart of Egypt's survival and success. Its yearly inundations deposited fertile silt that enabled the cultivation of plentiful crops. This agricultural wealth was the foundation of Egypt's economy and supported the rise of a highly advanced society. Surrounded by immense deserts, the Nile not only nourished life but also shielded the civilization from invasions, fostering a distinct and prosperous culture built upon spirituality, stability, and centralized rule. The pharaoh was seen as both a sovereign leader and a divine figure, bridging the realm of mortals with the gods. This sacred kingship carried responsibilities beyond administration. The pharaoh was the guardian of Ma'at, the cosmic principle of truth, harmony, and order. Majestic construction projects, such as the pyramids, were not mere burial places but divine symbols of the pharaoh's sanctified role and his eternal voyage into the afterlife. Upholding Ma'at meant preserving justice, sustaining the Nile's bounty, and honoring the deities through elaborate ceremonies and monumental building works. Any failure to uphold Ma'at was thought to unleash Isfet, or chaos, thereby endangering societal balance and divine favor. This belief system strengthened national unity and solidified the pharaoh's supreme status. Among the many illustrious rulers, Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great, is especially remembered for his legendary reign during the New Kingdom. He expanded Egypt's borders through successful military campaigns and ordered the construction of colossal architectural marvels. The temples at Abu Simbel, carved into the cliffs of southern Egypt, reflect his commitment to the gods and his vision for lasting grandeur. His long and prosperous rule brought peace, economic strength, and reaffirmed Egypt's role as a global power. In contrast, Hatshepsut, one of the rare female pharaohs, is remembered for her achievements in commerce, architecture, and the arts. During the 15th century BCE, she revitalized foreign trade, bringing wealth and exotic goods to Egypt. She also commissioned stunning constructions, notably her mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari, often portrayed in the regalia of a male pharaoh, including the ceremonial beard. Hatshepsut challenged conventional ideas about leadership and made an enduring impact on Egypt's historical narrative. Another extraordinary monarch was Akhenaten, famous for implementing dramatic religious changes. In the 14th century BCE, he shifted the nation toward monotheism, worshipping Aten, the sun disk, as the sole deity. He relocated the capital to Amarna and built a society around this new faith. His religious revolution disrupted centuries of polytheism, generating both cultural conflict and theological transformation. After his death, these reforms were reversed and his monuments defaced, yet his reign remains a fascinating and unique chapter in Egypt's story. His son, Tutankhamun, is best remembered not for his rule, but for reinstating traditional religion and for the astonishing discovery of his lavishly decorated tomb. The construction of Egypt's pyramids remains one of the civilization's most iconic accomplishments. Built primarily during the Old Kingdom, structures like the Great Pyramid of Giza reveal the Egyptians' exceptional skill in engineering, mathematics, and logistical planning. Commissioned by Pharaoh Khufu, this grand edifice testifies to the immense coordination of labor and resources under his command, symbolizing his divine status and his journey to the eternal realm. Pharaohs governed a society deeply entwined with religious practice, cosmic order, and belief in an eternal existence after death. They were warriors, architects, and divine custodians charged with the well-being of their people and the stability of the universe. Their contributions endure not only in the monumental temples and tombs scattered across modern Egypt, but also in their lasting imprint on the course of civilization. The eternal allure of ancient Egypt lies in its exceptional accomplishments, profound devotion to the spiritual world, and the compelling narratives of its rulers, figures whose influence continues to mesmerize the modern world. The Sumerian legacy in Mesopotamia. The ancient civilization of Mesopotamia is often seen as a trailblazer in the evolution of human society. The name Mesopotamia, which translates to the land between rivers, referred to the fertile area nestled between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in what is now modern-day Iraq. This lush region, commonly known as the Fertile Crescent, was the birthplace of many of humanity's most significant and revolutionary advancements. From approximately 4,500 BCE to 1,900 BCE, the Sumerians had a profound influence on early cultures through innovations in literacy, leadership, urban development, and commerce. A fundamental aspect of Sumerian culture was the city-state, a self-governing political structure that reimagined how communities were organized. Unlike empires ruled by centralized power, each city-state in Sumer, like Ur, Uruk, and Eridu, maintained its own sovereign leader, divine protector, and cultural uniqueness. Uruk, often recognized as one of the first authentic cities in the world, at its peak housed nearly 50,000 residents and laid the foundation for urban civilization as we understand it today. Among the Sumerians' most influential accomplishments was the creation of cuneiform script. Initially designed for economic record-keeping, cuneiform gradually expanded to encompass legislation, mythology, religious songs, and chronicles of past events. Writing made administrative work more efficient and ensured that Sumerian heritage would be transmitted across generations. One famous example, the Epic of Gilgamesh, ranks among the earliest pieces of literature and sheds light on Sumerian beliefs and ideals, showing the richness of their intellectual and spiritual life. Religious faith was deeply embedded in every facet of Sumerian existence. Each city-state worshipped a specific deity believed to control nature and human fate. Massive temple towers, or ziggurats, stood as both religious sanctuaries and centers of administration, visual representations of the link between the heavens and the earth. Priests held influential societal roles, acting as intermediaries between the divine and the people. These spiritual values also shaped their approach to law. The Code of Urukagina, the earliest known legal code, came before Hammurabi's laws and emphasized justice through restitution rather than vengeance. Legal codification marked the movement away from traditional customs toward formalized rule, reflecting the growing intricacy of Sumerian life. Farming formed the economic and social backbone of Sumerian society. It supported expanding populations and enabled social complexity. With an elaborate system of irrigation, the Sumerians harnessed the waters of the Tigris and Euphrates to counter the area's inconsistent rainfall. This allowed for the reliable cultivation of crops like barley, wheat, and dates. The resulting food surpluses enabled population expansion and gave rise to occupational specialization, allowing some people to focus on trades, commerce, and government. Commerce was vital to the Sumerian economic system. Although Mesopotamia was agriculturally rich, it lacked key natural materials like wood, metal ores, and stone. To obtain these, the Sumerians built far-reaching trade routes that extended to the Indus Valley and the eastern Mediterranean. Through these networks, they traded goods such as textiles, grain, and handmade artifacts for resources like copper, gold, and other precious materials. This web of trade connections served as an early version of global commerce. Despite shared religious traditions and cultural practices, the various Sumerian city-states frequently clashed as they vied for control over the fertile lowlands. These rivalries are documented in the Sumerian king list, which chronicles rulers' reigns and the transfer of political authority. Legendary figures such as Gilgamesh, whose deeds became immortalized in epic literature, demonstrate the lasting significance of early Sumerian leadership. The decline of Sumerian civilization unfolded gradually and was fueled by external forces, particularly incursions from nearby groups like the Akkadians and Amorites. The emergence of the Akkadian Empire, led by Sargon the Great in the 24th century BCE, signaled the gradual erosion of Sumerian autonomy. Nonetheless, the Sumerians' cultural and scientific contributions endured, leaving a deep imprint on subsequent societies such as the Babylonians and Assyrians. The Sumerians laid down the essential elements of what would become the hallmarks of modern civilization, including systems of writing, codified laws, structured religion, urban planning, and commerce. Their groundbreaking achievements turned Mesopotamia into a center of innovation and culture, forever shaping the direction of human progress. Even today, their legacy, fueled by ingenuity and the capacity to adapt, continues to echo through the ages. The dawn of ancient societies. A pivotal era in the story of humankind was the gradual emergence of early civilizations. This wasn't a sudden occurrence, but rather a long-developing process that unfolded over millennia across various regions of the world. It started when human populations made the shift from living as mobile bands of hunters and gatherers to forming permanent settlements, developing towns, political systems, and methods of writing. This transformation laid the essential foundation for farming, governance, commerce, technological advancement, and artistic expression. A key catalyst behind this civilizational rise was the innovation of agriculture. Roughly 10,000 years ago, in the region known as the Fertile Crescent, which covers parts of what are today Iraq, Syria, and Turkey, people began to grow food and domesticate animals. The region's climate and physical features were ideal for cultivating grains such as wheat and barley. For the first time in history, human groups could generate excess food supplies, making it possible to remain in one location and develop stable communities. The agricultural lifestyle required close attention to nature's rhythms, prompting early efforts at observation and tracking, eventually giving rise to rudimentary systems of documentation. Over time, these efforts evolved into fully developed scripts, such as cuneiform in ancient Mesopotamia, originally used to log food inventories and economic exchanges. The organization essential for managing farms also led to the establishment of political leadership, as expanding populations required officials to allocate resources, resolve conflicts, and ensure security. Mesopotamia, often hailed as the birthplace of civilization, provides a vivid picture of these developments. Along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, the Sumerians constructed urban centers like Uruk, showcasing advanced buildings and massive religious towers known as ziggurats. Sumerian society had a clear social hierarchy. At the top were monarchs and priests, followed by traders, craftsmen, agricultural workers, and laborers. This social structure allowed individuals to concentrate on specific tasks such as trade, bureaucracy, and skilled labor, spurring inventions like the wheel and the establishment of formal legal systems, such as the well-known Code of Hammurabi. Likewise, ancient Egyptian society flourished along the banks of the Nile River. The Nile's reliable flooding enriched the soil, allowing for productive farming and serving as a convenient route for trade and transportation. Egypt developed into a highly unified society under the rule of pharaohs, who were viewed as both sovereign rulers and divine beings. Their construction of vast pyramid structures reflected both their authority and left lasting cultural imprints. In the Indus River region, the Harappan civilization revealed an astonishing level of urban organization. Cities like Harappa and Mohenjo-daro were laid out with precise grid patterns, featured advanced sanitation systems, and used uniform weights and measures, evidence of a well-coordinated society. While much of Harappan culture remains shrouded in mystery, their architectural and trade accomplishments suggest connections with other ancient civilizations, such as Mesopotamia. In East Asia, early Chinese civilizations arose along the Yellow River. The Shang dynasty, one of China's earliest dynasties, became known for its expert metalwork in bronze and its structured societal hierarchy. Early Chinese script emerged at this time, along with the foundational idea of the mandate of heaven, a belief that a ruler's legitimacy stemmed from divine approval, which influenced Chinese political thought for centuries. These early civilizations confronted shared obstacles, efficiently using resources, protecting themselves from external dangers, and managing the increasing intricacy of their societies. Trade routes linked these early cultures, promoting the flow of goods, technologies, and cultural concepts. These exchanges not only enriched each society, but also laid the groundwork for a globally connected world. The birth of civilizations was guided by physical geography, access to resources, and human creativity. However, with growth came new trials, internal strife, foreign invasions, and environmental disruption. Still, humanity pressed forward, continuing to develop, innovate, and construct the pillars upon which modern civilization stands. The legacy of the Sumerians in Mesopotamia and the peoples who followed them reflects the enduring human drive to organize, communicate, and build lasting societies. The emergence of modern humans. Roughly 300,000 years ago, the narrative of modern humans began on the African continent during a period marked by uncertainty and a constantly shifting environment. At that time, our predecessors were among several human species inhabiting the Earth, yet only modern humans, known scientifically as Homo sapiens, would persist? What enabled us to endure while others faded? What factors allowed us to adjust to such a dynamic world? To uncover the answers, we must trace our roots further back, approximately 6 million years in the past, when the evolutionary path of early hominins, our upright walking forebears, diverged from the final shared ancestor we had with chimpanzees. Evolution is rarely straightforward. Over countless generations, numerous human-like species appeared. Among these were Homo habilis, recognized for crafting some of the earliest tools, and Homo erectus, who journeyed beyond Africa into the continents of Europe and Asia. Yet Homo sapiens would take a distinctive route. Our identity was not merely shaped by anatomy, but by extraordinary cognitive strengths. The human mind evolved into a powerful tool for innovation, abstract reasoning, and cooperation. These mental capabilities led to the birth of language, symbolic expression, and cultural traditions, allowing us to communicate, invent, and unite. Early signs of this evolution are visible in crafted tools, cave paintings, and even ritual burials, clear indicators of a species beginning to think in ways that transcended basic survival. Physiologically, Homo sapiens were unique as well. Our slender builds and capacity for long-distance movement enabled success across various terrains, from the vast grasslands of Africa to the demanding regions encountered during migrations. In contrast to the heavily built Neanderthals, who were adapted to the frigid climate of Ice Age Europe, we survived through flexibility and inventiveness. For tens of thousands of years, Homo sapiens did not exist in isolation. We cohabited the planet with other human relatives, including the Neanderthals in Europe and the Denisovans in Asia. These relationships were not solely marked by rivalry. Genetic studies reveal episodes of interbreeding. Today, the genetic legacy of these ancient connections lives on in the DNA of modern humans, carrying small fragments of Neanderthal and Denisovan ancestry. A significant shift in our timeline occurred between 60,000 and 100,000 years ago, when small populations of modern humans began migrating out of Africa. As they ventured into unfamiliar and often unforgiving lands, they exhibited astonishing ingenuity, developing new tools, making garments, and devising survival techniques suited for each environment. From the icy plains of Siberia to the lush jungles of Southeast Asia, early humans proved remarkably capable of reshaping their behaviors to meet the demands of their habitats. Roughly 40,000 years ago, a dramatic transformation unfolded, marked by a surge in cultural and technological progress. This era witnessed the emergence of detailed cave murals, musical devices, and sophisticated implements. These innovations were more than practical achievements. They revealed a maturing capacity for imagination, storytelling, and social cohesion. Such advancements reinforced group bonds and paved the way for the rise of more intricate communities. Despite our progress, other human species gradually vanished. By 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals had disappeared, soon followed by the Denisovans and other hominins. Why did Homo sapiens prevail while others faded into extinction? The answer likely lies in a mix of our adaptability, our cooperative nature, and a degree of fortune. The saga of modern humans is one of resilience, invention, and evolution. Each hurdle we encountered helped mold the characteristics that define us today. By delving into our origins, we gain a deeper understanding of how we came to dominate the globe and how we continue to evolve in response to the ever-changing conditions of our world. The dawn of early civilizations would later represent a transformative chapter in that ongoing story.